Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? Right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Hello, friends. Happy Monday. Happy Father's Day. Post-Father's Day. Hashtag Real Race Talk coming to you from the great state of Texas. Showtime, Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez. Great show that we have lined up for you. We're going to talk to Leroy Farmer coming up in a little bit. That's going to be some great conversation. That is a very colorful figure from times that have passed around here in the state of Texas. Always. I think Leroy, one of those guys, a little bit ahead of his time. But we'll dig into all of that. But at the same time, we're going to talk about the weekend that was and maybe what's to come. Bobby, Father's Day, did you take care of the old man?
I did. I went out.
Good
went
job.
over to
Good
my
job.
sister's house on Saturday night. Took care of that. Then I spent some time with the father-in-law on Sunday. So it was. I was the one in charge of cooking the steaks on Sunday.
Nice.
And so I had to make sure out of all the steaks that were done right, I had to make sure the father-in-law steak was the one that was done. And apparently,
That's right.
It passed the test, so that's good. That's all that really matters.
Don't overdo
the rest
it.
of the steaks were still good. They were all done to a perfect medium rare.
I was
But
gonna
he
say-
likes his pretty damn rare. Like slap
that's what
slap
I'm
the
saying.
ass and just toss it on the side. And
Did you give the mother-in-law the one with the blood still coming out?
no, that's the one. That's the one he wanted.
Okay, well that's good. That's a good thing. I mean, to each their own. I mean, I like mine. I like mine medium well. I like a good
Brick.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, it's man. I love steak. I had a great weekend myself. I mean, the wife and kids and everybody took good care of me on Saturday because we had planned to go see the man, the myth, the legend on Sunday, which we did. And we went to out in Lockhart. We went to one of the. It was so funny because we were talking to Dad and we're like, "You want to go here? You want to go there?" And he's like, "Actually, why don't we go to this place?" He mentioned the place, and it's one of those little hidden gems, Tex-Mex places, Mexican food. And man, my family's like, the girls and Tracy are like, "This is unbelievable." I said, "This is what you find in the barrio, my friends. This is what you find." I mean,
Damn.
good stuff. Good stuff.
You have to give me the name of that place. So
I will.
I've run down over there. It's not that far from my house to Lockhart.
I will. I'll pass it on. Like we said, on the show, Leroy Farmer coming up. But, Bobby, I do want to get your thoughts before we dig into that, and we could do it after the fact as well. I think Bubba Pollard did a really, really good job this weekend with proving to people, again, with what SRX does. It's a great concept. I love what they do, and I'm glad they put him in that car at Pensacola. But I really think that with the performance that he had, it solidified just not how, I mean, obviously how good he is, but how good the short trackers are.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think he would have won that race had he not had that flat tire.
Yeah.
By far. Just because he was able to start from the back and with one competition caution made his way back up to second. So whether or not you want to blame that on a solid left rear, like a brand new left rear, I think if you put it on the right rear, I would give you a little bit more credit and blame it to say the tire was all that, but put it on the left rear. That's some pretty good driving talent and really good knowledge of Pensacola to go from 13th all the way up to second. So, like I said, if he doesn't have that flat tire, that left rear, I think he wins that thing going away.
The other thing, thinking about that, as I went back and watched it, because I got to, my birthday present paid off this week. I think I posted on Facebook where I got to see Crystal Gale. That's a dream come true to me to get to see her. She's still just as damn good as she used to be, I can tell you, for crying out loud. But so the other thing that is so impressive to me, Helio Castroneves, Elio, and Tony Kanaan, these guys, when you want to talk about world-class drivers driving in the SRX, those guys are really freaking good because this is not their forte. Obviously, they've had some time in these cars. But for those guys to run that well at that tire grinder, that, to me, was as impressive as what Bubba did.
Well, I think the impressive part about Helio Castroneves' run in that particular race was how soon it came together. It came together with midnight oil.
Right, right.
Tim Bryant's having to find a decal shop at like midnight to try to put the decals on that thing for the next morning so they can get it done. But that's what made that impressive. Without even having to ride, Castro Neves is sitting there on an airplane, right in coach, much like the rest of us, riding coach to Pensacola.
Yeah, and the impressive thing is with that, it'd be one thing when I read all of that he was going to get thrust into that seat. I'm thinking, okay, if this is a road course, whatever. I mean, obviously he's going to do well, but and he got him a NASCAR ride, on top of that.
Supposedly, that was the deal.
Right.
Now, whether or not we'll see that Project 91.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that, but I think it's really impressive, just the whole presentation. And again, this is where we can argue about this all the time. This is not what NASCAR needs to become, because for all the folks that don't like what NASCAR is now, NASCAR is 400, 500-mile races. Maybe they need to make that 300-mile races. The Cup Series can't do what we watch with SRX, but man, what a great presentation. Made for TV. You can't beat it. I mean, it's compact, it's packaged, it's in prime time, and then you get Bubba Pollard in there, and we're going to see it as they continue to go off doing this. But when you get Tony Stewart and Bobby Labonte, and you start mixing in Ryan Hunter-Reys and all these people, it is a very good made-for-TV show.
Yeah, just to tick over 2 hours, like we said, we told everybody on Saturday, going down a little bit of extra time to your DVR, because chances are it's going to run a tick more than 2 hours. But I thought that overall it was a good presentation. The competition was pretty decent. The stock car guys, it seems like the stock car guys always end up racing better the very first race before those open wheel guys get a chance to do it. But all in all, I thought that a little bit of controversy. Our man Willie T. Ribbs is now a pit reporter. Didn't think I'd see that.
I didn't know that.
But it was.
I did not know that.
Those poor bastards were suffering, man, because it was hot. It looked hot and miserable on TV.
That was the funniest part for me when I went back and watched that, where I'm seeing all them some bitches over there, and they're sweating, and guys with the towels around their neck and all that, and I'm like, welcome to what we have done here forever. And I mean, you got to imagine, how hot that really was. But I mean, they're not used to this. But yeah, they were in a world of hurt there. And but I think they all did well. The racing was good. I mean, it's a good product. It's a very good product. But I think the two things, obviously, Bubba, really shined well for the short track family. And remember, guys, Bubba is a dirt guy too. So I'm hoping that you were cheering him on. Dude owns a racetrack in Sequoia.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they mentioned that in the broadcast.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope that Short Track Nation was behind him. You had that, and not only that, I mean, for Five Flags, I mean, whether you have deserted asphalt racing and gone over to dirt, at some point, if you're a Texan, you probably went to Five Flags at some point, maybe when it didn't have walls and all that, but I think it shone bright for all of us that are in short track racing.
I remember the first time I went to Five Flags, went to the Derby, everybody kept telling me, you're going to feel like you're in Texas. And lo and behold, all the people that I knew that I saw, it felt like a home race because you saw so many people that you knew. But I thought CBS and SRX did a really good job telling the story. They were talking about the history of the track, about how the NASCAR stars have come and raced there. And I thought they did a really good job incorporating the Snowball Derby into it to talk about how big of a race that really is. And I thought that they did a really good job with Bubba stuff, explaining about him being a short track ace and explaining about a super late model and stuff like that. So I thought SRX put the package together pretty good.
They did mess up one thing that I caught, and this is coming from a guy that told people to go to Luling this weekend for the Watermelon Thump that is next weekend, and the same guy that told people to get excited for the Saturday Texas and Texas A&M game, which was the next day. But I did catch that they said Bubba Pollard has won the Snowball Derby.
Oh, that's right.
I'm like, when was that? I missed that.
Is when he was driving that 71 car.
See, I was already, yeah. He won. First one out.
Yeah, he was the first one out.
The first one out. See, I was very on edge after my mistakes on the radio. So I was like, wait a minute here. That's not quite right. But this may be his year. But, I mean, good for him. And when you got Ryan Newman in there, think about that, dude. When we get Newman and Tony Stewart at the dirt race, that could get fun.
I mean, if you get him now, I mean, think about it in South Boston. I mean, I've watched some of the races from South Boston on Flow Racing, and that track is conducive to some really good side-by-side racing.
Boom. Word of the day. Other thing I want to touch on quickly before we move on too much further, I've got it right here. It's highlighted. It's in pen. Is Jared Maupin once again continues to dazzle. I mean, we watch this guy. I mean, he goes off, over at the race ranch. I mean, he wins races. I mean, the one race he didn't win, he was third in a very competitive, limited modified race, sport mod race, whatever you want to call it. But I think Jared Maupin is one of those guys when we talk about, like with Caden Honeycutt, who's picked up 3 races additional in the truck series, where when speaking of hidden gems, Jared Maupin is a bad sumbitch, and I mean that in the most respective way. That guy right there, I know he drove for Rick for a while. That guy, he's really, really good, man.
He definitely has that it factor when it comes to racing.
Dude,
I think that
I tell you, it's crazy.
I know that he's got a mix of cars that other people own that he drives. He's got his own house cars that he races himself. So there is a lot of talent there. Got to get him loosened up for the interviews a little bit. He's been on the show a couple of times, which helps out a lot. And after he knows I'm not going to ask him any crazy questions that he's not going to know the answer to in Victory Lane down there at Texana. So it works out just right.
Well, the thing is with Jared, I mean, even with Bobby, his dad, I mean, that's a very humble family. I mean, they've had to do everything. I mean, they've done it on their own. I mean, they had the opportunities there to get in some of that stuff. But then again, like you said, he gets in his own stuff and just continues to roll on. And I really, it's cool to watch him because I try to figure out where he's going to race. Then I go back and I check his results, and there it is. I mean, I love what Polero posted it, I think a couple of weeks ago, where he said he's just like mopping up the competition, and he does it time after time. And that is a young talent where you just hope, where we talk about great race drivers around the country, that you just hope that the one person is going to hone in and see the potential and see how good he is, and just scoop this kid up, because he works on his own stuff. And I mean, like you say, some of the timidness with the interview, that's just because, he's not used to that. So it's a great hidden talent. And man, somebody come get him. Somebody come get him, because he deserves it.
Yeah, he's definitely been able to, he's lightened up some. I don't mean that in a bad way. When it comes to the interviews, because you start asking him about, part of it too is knowing which questions to ask, right? You don't want to ask the strange questions to the people. There are times of people that we know you can ask a crazy question to somebody like a Langham or a John Heil or something along those lines, the guys that know how to handle the crazy questions. But in terms of that, he's getting a lot better with that, and he's learning the craft. I mean, that BD1 modified that he's got has been pretty exceptionally good, both at everywhere that he's run. Really, I don't think he's gone up and run Cotton Bowl recently with that car, but yeah, he's he wins at I-37, he wins at Texana, he wins at the race ranch. So all the way around, he's got all 3 programs up pretty good. Even when he tries to climb into a factory stock.
Yeah. The other thing I want to touch on, I was so impressed once again with Cotton Bowl Speedway, and you and I were talking before the show where Rowdy Chenard wins in the factory stocks, his first win right there in that car, and a great job for that young dude. I mean, he works hard. That's a hard-working family. But Cotton Bowl Speedway, I mean, Waco's done it forever. So we're gonna kind of lay off of the Waco love here just for a minute and talk about with Cotton Bowl. They do such a good job with. I mean, the pits are full. I mean, the pits are full, and a lot of people want to talk about. I know last year when Race on Texas, our friends did the factory stock power rankings, it was like, well, yeah, but those guys don't go race anywhere else. That's okay.
They don't need to.
They don't need to. And Cotton Bowl Speedway, once again, I mean, in the factory stocks, you look at that. All those cars, I mean, they consistently pull modifieds in with a struggling limited modified sport mod, feel that we see around the state. They continue to have a shitload of cars, and I think that's great. I mean, that's a homegrown racetrack, and they did it again. Another good hometown show this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is seeing how far. We know that times are tight with gas being almost $5 a gallon for regular gas. Much right. Less. Most of the trucks that pull these cars are diesel.
Yeah.
So you're looking at $5.50. Some places $6 a gallon for tow fuel. to see the people that tow, because it is not a short drive for hardly anyone to go to Cotton Bowl.
No.
You've got to be dedicated to make that drive, either from Austin, Bastrop. You got a couple of guys from Killeen, Buda, North Austin. It's a drive to get there. And for them to be able to keep up the car counts has been it's been one of the better stories of 2022 in terms of a local short track. And by seeing how many people have been dedicated to that track and continue to support that track when it's pretty damn expensive to get there.
You got that right. It's out. It's not convenient, and that's a good thing. Let's jump on another landmark night, because we love talking to the guys that we've either grown up watching. I actually got to race with this guy one time, and I'll tell that story later and ask him about it, see if he even remembers that. But to the Lone Star Speed Zone hotline, powered by Computer Age Automotive, we are jumping on, and it is the one and only, man, I'm excited to talk to this dude. Many nights watching him in Austin and San Antonio and around the state. It is the great Leroy Farmer. Mr. Farmer, how are you, sir?
I'm doing absolutely great. How about you?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of our little shit show right here. We're glad to have you on. So Leroy, the number one question folks want to know, what are you up to these days? We'll talk about the history and the stories in a little bit, but what is going on these days for you?
Absolutely nothing.
I love it.
Working in my backyard, you know.
Oh, man, that is awesome.
That's about it. Water the grass, water my plants. I don't do anything, you know. Don't do anything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You deserve it.
Well, it ain't what I want, it's what I can afford.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. That's right.
I just heard this fellow talking about the price of gasoline, you know, and going to Mary Ann's place over there. That's I've never been there, but I know where it's at, you know.
Yeah.
It's never had to deal with that when I was racing, you know, about the price of fuel to get there.
Mm-hmm.
There's the price of fuel to put the car, you know.
That's right.
I imagine that stuff's what now, $10 a gallon for VP.
Got to be.
At least, yeah. If not 13.
Yeah. That's
wow.
That stuff smells good, and right now it is like gold.
Yeah, it does smell good, but
yeah, it does. It does,
and it does the job, you know.
Yeah, it does.
You can tell the difference from pump gas to VP.
That's for damn sure. That is for damn sure.
It's I miss it. You know, I miss it a lot, but I know I can't do it. So I just sit around and watch old timers like Greg do it. You know?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's for sure.
So Leroy, let's talk about how you got into this thing. Obviously, we know you're retired and spending time in the backyard now, but obviously everybody's got a beginning about how we got into this crazy business, and everybody's got a starting point. What was the breaking point for you when you got into this thing?
Well, into stock car racing?
Or cars in general. I mean, pick the point that you want to pick a.
Well, that stock car racing went to Myers Speedway, watched them and fell in love with it, and been doing it ever since I was 16 years old. Wow. 78 now, so you figure it out.
Man, that's a lot of years, and that's usually the way that works out for all of us. Leroy, I want to talk about. I want to hone in specifically to Speedorama. Talk about that, like what Bobby's saying there. So it started out in Houston. So how did it wind up that you ended up in Austin? Because for me, so much of me growing up and going to Speedorama on a Friday or then a Saturday was you guys on Friday night. How'd you end up in the Speedorama part of that?
Well, I left Houston. I moved to San Antonio, and it was a race for Ricky Ware, you know, at Pan American, or over to Austin and race for him over there. So I started racing in Austin, fell in love with that place.
Yeah.
It was a small bull ring. You beat and banged all the time, but, you know, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was.
It was, and I don't know what year that was. It was a long time ago.
That's right.
But that, it was a place that a lot of racers started, you know.
Yeah.
and a lot of people still run there. Well, they still run there. Ron Chambers had a chance to build that place up, and I don't know if he ran out of money or just woke up and thought that was the same thing to spend the money on, you know.
that's probably the wiser thing right there to do that.
Yeah. I ran that place from CARA.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yep.
1 year, me and Steve Easty and Dwight Hamilton was with us. Anyway, it's not a cheap place to keep running, you know.
Yeah. Leroy, talk about that, because I remember that with CARA. I remember when that came in. I know Mac had the place probably in '81, I think it was, and there was another guy in 1980. I think his name was Ray something, but it really got to a point where you guys as racers had to figure out a way to keep this thing going, because otherwise it was gonna fall away. There wasn't going to be any racing at Speedorama anymore.
Well, didn't Mac come after CARA?
Mac was 80. I think Mac was 81, because that's when Slick Yeomans was running there. And then I think you guys were 82, 83, 84. And then then you had Stand On It Productions later. So
Alvin Stewart ran it for a while.
That's
and
right.
Lisa got it.
That's right. Right. Yeah, that's right.
And then I don't know when Jake and Marianne came in there.
Yeah, they
came after.
Afterwards. I think they were before. And you know what? You might be right. Maybe, and I think you're right, Leroy. I think Jake was 81. Jake was 81. So I'm all thrown off. I just know there was a lot of folks. But with Capital Area Racing Association, you guys had to figure out a way to keep the place alive. So you came up and you figured out a way, and I thought that was always so neat.
Well, what was it? Yeah, Sam
Hill.
Sam Hill. Sammy Hill, yeah. Sam Hill was a big contributor to that, you know. For the concession rights, he paid the rent for a year.
I didn't know that. I'll be damned. Nice.
Yeah, Alvin used him too, you know, and Alvin got it.
Yeah.
And Sam, you know, quit sponsoring it. Well, Alvin kind of, I think, ran out of money too. It took a lot of money to keep the thing going.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. When I was running it, when I met Charlie Coyne, and to a quick story about that. The White was running the scales one night, and Charlie came the first time he'd been there, and he's real light, like 300 pounds light.
Oh,
and so the White came to me and told me that this Coyne guy said he wanted to race. So he's 300 pounds light. So I went to Charlie and told him, Mr. Coyne said, "You can race if you want to, but I can't pay you. You know, you're too light." Yeah. And he said, "I didn't come to get paid. I come to win." so that was Charlie.
Oh, man, I tell you, sure was.
Leroy, what did you guys have to change when you went from Pan American, or I guess you ran Speedorama on a Friday, then Pan American on a Saturday? What all did you have to change? Did you change anything between the two tracks? They seem like they were both tight little bull rings.
Change your mind. All you had to do.
Oh, man, that is the best answer I've heard for that question.
Yeah. George told me that one time. We was out in North Carolina with George England, and we would run a pavement race that day, Sunday, and Metro Atlanta was running Sunday night in the dirt. And Caraway was.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
He said, "Let's go to Caraway and run." I said, "George, we don't know dirt tires. You don't do dirt tires." And he said, "All you got to do is change your mind."
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it was something else.
Man, that is great. That people need to think about that shit these days. As a matter of fact, so Leroy, your cars. I mean, we're popping up a picture of one of your Herzog. It looked like a Trans Am, but when I was a kid, you had a white Chevy Nova that was unbelievably beautiful. I mean, your cars always. I mean, they have a thing now in asphalt racing. They call them the outlaw stocks, and they look a lot like what you guys used to run with your late models, with you and Charlie and Bob Bolin and all those guys. your cars were immaculate. I mean, talk about that. You would come out. I remember you would show up with at San Antonio. They called it one time an armored driller or something like that. I don't know what the hell it was, but I mean, your cars were always so badass.
Well, thank you. It was I worked on them all the time.
Yeah.
I had a body shop down South Congress, and my dad run it for me, and I'd be back in the back working on my racer. And a lady come in there one day, and she asked me, Dad, said, "Sir, is there any way I can get my car out of here by Friday?" He said, "No, unless you paint a number on the door." So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
that was, but yeah, that was some good old times back then. God Almighty,
Wasn't it? I tell you.
Yeah. He talked about Mac having that racetrack. He told me one night, or they had a, I don't know, 72 inches or something, square inches for a spoiler, and total. So I cut it in half and stood way up tall, but it was real narrow on the left side.
Yeah.
And I had wire running and everything. Howard Reefmar come over just raising hell. What the hell's going on, Mac? Look at this. And Mac, he said, "What's the spoiler right through?" And Mac told him, says, "As long as you don't tear my wires down when you come in, you can run it."
Oh,
that
damn.
Mac, something else.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, Leroy, what can you tell me about a Cadillac Eldorado body that you hand built? What do you remember about that car?
Oh, I remember that one.
I remember that Jake Wallace come looked at it over in my garage and said, "That's real nice. Don't bring it to my racetrack." But that was I had a 12-foot long piece of Lexington, and I don't know where I got it, but anyway, I laid it down the nose and just let it lay over the rollbars. And it was the hood, the windshield, and the top, and the back glass all at one time. And I said, "Well, let's just cut her up and leave it just like that." And I built aluminum sides for it, and had a Lexington hood, cut it out, and so it had an airflow that was unbelievable. And that was my Cadillac Eldorado. Yeah, they said, "What is it?" And I said, "I don't know." And they said, "Call it a Cadillac." And well, that's good enough.
Yeah.
So I called dealers, had a Cadillac emblem sent out, and when the spring-loaded stand-up things, Cadillac, and put it on the hood, and there she was.
I seem to recall, Mr. Farmer. I think if I remember correctly, I think that Lexan hood blew off at 16 one time.
Yeah, it did.
Did it? I think I remember that. I'm that old to remember that. I'm like, I remember being a kid, and I'm thinking that hood looks awful clear.
It was. It wasn't there. It went by the wayside pretty quick.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was the night that Tommy Davis, I thought, was leading the race, and I was just lacing my wheels off that thing to stay up with him or past him, and then I looked over one lap, and he was sitting in the pits, and he was doing something, and he come back at me to be in front of me, and I didn't do that. So that's what was the matter. He was coming in and out of the pits. They were having trouble, and I think I beat him by 4 or 5 laps that night.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, so Leroy, I mean, you mentioned Charlie Coyne a while ago, and the reason I reached out to you, I think you had commented on Bob Bolin, on something Bob Bolin had talked about. I want to ask you about, I mean, because the drivers of that day, I mean, you guys are all in my soul as the guys that I got to watch. I mean, yourself and like you said with Coyne, I mean, when he'd show up from Grand Prairie, and then Bob Bolin from Midland, if John Foster showed up, and you had all the bunch from Austin and San Antonio, and
that was a real racer.
Talk about those guys. I mean, these guys, no offense to the racers these days, but they couldn't hold your jock strap with what you guys used to do back in those days.
Well, it was a fun thing back then. You could race, and it cost a lot of money, but it was a lot of fun too. And we all respected one another. It wasn't none of that, using the right front fender to pass somebody or a bumper.
Yep.
You bump somebody, you better be ready to get your ass whipped when you got in the pit.
That's right.
Because they just didn't do that, And I told them all that crap started. Is they'd take the right front fender and half the front bumper off these things. They'd quit doing that. They got to bump somebody with that tire, they'd stop it. but it's just got worse and worse and worse. And that's the way you do it, you know. I don't know why these guys have got to run like that, but also we had to pay for everything that we did. We bought our own, tires, we bought our own cars, built them, and nowadays these kids have got so much money that they don't care, They got to back up in the trailer,
Yeah.
Our backup was a pile of sheet metal there in the house,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
that's right.
But it was Charlie and John, it was Slick, you got to put in there,
Slick, yeah.
Rap, it's Waldo, you can't leave Waldo out.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So, it was a good group of guys. We all had fun doing it.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Leroy, what do you remember about the transition to go from Pan American up to Highway 16? We've talked to a couple of guys about it, heard a couple of different stories. The main consensus sounds like it was just guys that wanted to go fast, and they whether they disagreed with Ricky paying them more, whatever the case may be. What do you remember about the transition to Highway 16, and how did you feel about it? Did you like the high banks down there? Was it enough speed for you, or did you prefer the bull rings?
Well, I loved it because
I bet you did.
What I was racing against was Glenn Swabby, Albie Stewart, those guys that were Ace, and Brooks was another one.
That's right. Leroy.
That was fast on the quarter miles, but wasn't quite so fast on the half. But I was raised on the half mile. I started on the half mile in Houston.
Yeah.
So I understood the half mile,
Yeah.
And they all run down the corner and park it, and that's when you just drive by them,
Yeah.
Because that's where they do it on the quarter mile,
Mm-hmm.
Hug the inside, Albie Stewart style, just stay in the way. I can't get around you.
That's right. I mean, that was definitely the thing there, and we always talked about it because we would go spectate on Friday with Austin and then San Antonio, and it's like the Austin guys would come to San Antonio and they weren't quite worth the shit the way they were in Austin, and that made a lot of sense. I mean, especially knowing now as good as Leroy was and all of that, but there were guys like yourself that you were good at both of those places. One of my great friends and that helped my dad and I become part of racing, Jim Pallas from Big Four Auto Parts, is checking in, and he's mentioning there, talking about the Lyle brothers and JD Hughes, the from Sundown, Texas. I mean, all these guys. The list just goes on and on of all the great racers that you guys would go toe to toe every weekend around here.
Yeah. JD, in fact, his birthday was the other day.
Oh, nice.
But JD was a good racer. They called him Sundown Sizzler.
Sundown,
Texas.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, the purple 41. Well, I tell you what, I remember that car well.
Man, I tell you, yes, sir. Damn, I'm old, Bobby.
All the old timers, was if we all showed up, you had a good car race.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody showed up, there was going to be a car race to the end, And there's so many that we're leaving out, that we haven't mentioned, but I won't remember them all, I do in my mind when I see the race, but when I see a picture of Tate, Scotty Garrett was one of them.
Oh, Scotty Garrett, that's right. That's right.
And Lee Mackin had a Jerry Grant, I think, drove for him.
That super
and
stock.
Then Steve Kristinek.
Oh, Steve Klesenik. That's right. He's still around. He is always out at Mary Ann's place, and he checks in all the time. They really hit onto something well. Remember, they had that old Camaro, and then got that real tall ass backside, and then the long nose on that car, and they got really good in the late models.
Yeah. Well, in the Chevelle, you mean?
Well,
81.
Yeah. The Chevelle with Jerry Grant, but with Klesenik, he was in that Camaro. Remember, they had that one Camaro when he moved up from Limited. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, good stuff.
Boy, I tell you what, Mac built one fine race car. No, he one car.
Yeah, he did.
The orange Chevelle.
Oh,
probably the best built super stock around ever.
It's tucked away at his place. Still got it.
Still there. Yeah.
Still got it.
Do what?
He still has it. It's put away at his.
Well, I heard that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I heard it was in clean racing on the dirt. So.
No, it better not be. So,
Well, that's like the Lyle brothers, out of Houston. They
That's
sponsored Freddie, and Philip. Well, when I changed the body on Freddie's little Novo, and made it, said he took the Chevelle body off, I put the Novo body on. But he kept it. Well, when Freddie was right before he passed away, Philip took the chassis, the Nova chassis up there,
mm-hmm.
which he owns, and they was going to put the old body back on it and put it in a museum somewhere up there.
Damn.
Well, in the meantime, Freddie passed away, and they didn't get I think he said that they were still working on getting it done, but he left it up there. But Freddie, we haven't talked about Freddie a whole lot. God, a mighty water racer.
Oh man, that was.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question for you. What do you remember about racing with Freddie Fryer?
Well, Freddie taught me something one night, and after the races, I was sitting there with one of the Dodge, that thing with the Hemi in it, and all wadded up, trying to knock off it. I drove it through the fence and tried to. And Freddie come over and told me, he said, you're going to win a lot of car races when you stop driving with your damn foot and start driving with your head.
Mm-hmm.
And, it kind of stuck in my mind, And after a while, he was right. You're bouncing off the fence 3 or 4 times. Well, you ain't going to win.
Yeah. Man. And that's so true. Yeah.
Freddie, when you got to the racetrack and Freddie was there, you were running for second.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie just was so much more experienced,
Yeah. Yep.
Him running against the wall, right up against the wall, and what was he doing? But then I put the body on that car, I noticed that the radiator was in it crossways or sideways, a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, what the hell is this going on? So I asked Freddie, you want me to straighten this radiator bar where you got it apart? No, don't fool with it. Because when you get up against the fence, you trap that air up against the fence, it forces through the radiator, and it cools it off faster.
Yeah.
I'll be damned. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. I mean, how good he was. We actually, Leroy, I think Bobby and I got probably the last interview, that in-depth interview that he did before he passed. We actually got to talk to him. And that was one of the things that he talked about on this show that you're on, where it's like being fast is important, but at the same time, being smart. You got to get to the end of the race, and especially racing against the guys that you all raced against. I mean, you had to be a smart driver. You couldn't be a dumbass out there and just start tearing your stuff up.
Yeah. Well, it. I don't know how to put it, but you couldn't be stupid.
Yeah.
You still can't. You see some stupid stuff going on nowadays in these cars. And I watched almost all the cup races, and some of the dumb stuff those boys are doing.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
They all making $1 million a year. So
yeah, well, they're doing something right.
And then some.
Yep, that's right.
It's been so many that went by the wayside. Well, we lost one the other day, George Nash out of Houston, a modified driver.
Didn't know that.
Him and Chumley and M.J. Burton and Charles Ray Shaw, and Larry and Jerry and Larry's daddy. Man, they were some tough racers.
Mm-hmm.
And they all modified, the Houston modifieds, which I think some of the best modified racing I ever seen.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Those cars were something else.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's been a fun ride. I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
JP, like you talked about Jim, Jim come along and he had that 4-car.
That's right.
Well, it was quite some kind of a piece,
Oh,
but
love that car. I just love that grabber blue car. Oh my God.
Slick drove it one night in San Antonio. I think it won everything.
Yeah, big old 150 lap race on the season opener. Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good times.
Hey, Leroy, did you ever run a 4-cylinder car, or were you just strictly modified cars? I seem to vaguely remember you running a 4-cylinder car.
There's the question. There's the question.
Yeah.
Pros and
I
cons.
cheated a little bit. I
Leroy,
read Neil's rules, and him and I never got along.
you would win Neil's races by like 4 laps.
Yeah. That thing was. I read his rules, and the car was built by the rule book. I mean, square by the rule book. And but the motor was a S-Linger out of California, and it was that thing had horsepower unbelievable for a 4-cylinder.
Shit.
And in fact, it was pretty fast. You remember Leon Grimes?
Oh yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
Tommy's dad.
Tommy's
Yeah,
dad.
yeah.
Yeah. He stood down there and turned 4 all the time. You know, after one of the heat races, I won it by about a lap. He came over there and he said, "Well, farmer, you better slow down." I said, "My God, you're going to have to put a trailer on the thing to pull all the weight that upchurch you got to put on you." You know.
So did you race against Ricky Ware Jr. and that Datsun that he had too? I
No,
vaguely
he
remember
was
that.
later.
Never
He-
did.
Later
he
than
was
that.
later.
No.
That'd have been a
Very
good
good
race.
stuff.
That'd have been a good race.
Yeah. Well, Bucky Hutchins was a hot dog at the time,
The Mini Cooper.
and
Yeah.
no, this was
Oh,
just
that's right.
recently.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he drove that car that I think Sergio got it and drove it. Made 6 or 7
The
championships. out of it.
Scirocco. The Scirocco. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, that was my goal, was to outrun him and that guy Brian College Station.
Bill LaBarge.
Bill the board.
Bill
Yep.
LaBarge.
Oh, Bill.
Yeah. The Honda. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
that 4-cylinder, when it comes to racing, that was the most fun I ever had,
I'll be
because
down.
that car was so superior that I could just do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And when I wanted. Now, I didn't win every race, but there was a reason for it, for some reason.
Yeah.
I crashed it a couple of times, and we blew up the motor. We put the wrong gear in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was holy smoke. Yeah, I would do that again. I'm like Greg Davison. I could do it mentally, but I can't do it physically.
Yeah.
I could race tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would.
So let me ask you, Leroy. I mean, talking about that with the the pro sedan racing and all of that. I actually raced against you one time, and you were. I mean, it was 1986, I think it was. It was one of those Joe Horn Enduros, and I don't know if you even remember this. But I was just some damn snotty-nosed kid and a 14-year-old kid in an old Nova. And you were out there in a car that was sponsored by Winston, I think, because it had like two.
I
It
was painting 2 cigarettes on the side of it because lemon was easy to paint.
Right. And I saw I saw the 2 cigarettes 24 times because you won. I finished 7th, and I was 24 laps down.
I won that one by 13 laps.
Yeah.
That was after coming in and getting a drink of water. Jack Morris called me in and said, "You want a drink of water?" "Oh, get out of here." And I went back out. That thing was flying.
Oh, man.
But about the second lap, John Kelly and I.
That's right. He was in
a
there.
little bit.
Yeah.
And a big old T-Bird or a Mercury Cougar or something. And we bumped, and I lost a cylinder. It was running on 7 cylinders. So I said, "Well, this ain't going to work." So I just put it up against the fence and just never picked my foot up.
Oh, my God.
Just stayed flat-footed around all the way around. But people would pass me up going down the straightaway sometimes. I blow by them in the corner. So.
Well, I saw those cigarettes go by several times, and it was a privilege to get passed by you that many times. I remember
I was probably smoking one at the time.
You probably were. I remember I pulled into the pits, and I told my dad we didn't know where we finished, and he said, "All I can tell you is you got your ass kicked by Leroy Farmer." And I'd watched you all those years, and I said, "Okay, well then that's not so bad." That is not so bad.
Well, thank you. That was
cool stuff. That was a good memory.
That was quite a race.
Yeah,
Quite a race.
Yeah, it was.
Did you get to
Joe turned over right there.
Did you?
That's
Yeah,
Joe.
right?
Yeah, Joe flipped in the dirt
That's right.
right there. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Good Joe.
Leroy, did
Well,
you get to run the Texas Race of Champions in College Station any?
He won it.
Yeah, I won it
Yeah.
1 year. Run second the year before, and then won it the next year by default. Freddie playing 9-1. It comes up to be about a 14-1 motor. And I run second. Oh, that's got a little story to it too. During practice on Saturday,
Mhm.
we were real fast, and Freddie just wasn't fast enough. So he come in, and they were pitted right next to us in the garage. At first garage, he had the first stall, and I had the second one. And we were sitting side by side while they went to pull the motor out. Like Junior, that helped him all the time, Big JR, man, they're working away, but they just unbolted the motor. Well, Carl's outhouse deal
Yeah.
was talking.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had Judy was my girlfriend then. And, Judy was sitting there in a little halter top and some short shorts. And Carl was drilling the lips, and he said, "Put the same old motor we had last year in it, And they swapped motors. Supposedly blew that one up, but they never changed the oil lines. They didn't change the oil. They capped off the oil lines and hooked it up to the motor, and Freddie went back out. And that was that big motor that he had won with the year before, and they didn't catch him.
Oh man.
It wasn't such a big motor; it was just not a 9-1,
Yeah.
Yeah, Freddie was. I called Freddie and said, "Freddie," I asked Neil. I said, "Neil, this is kind of like kissing your sister, but I did win the race, but he said, well, I'm going to send you the check." I said, "That's fine." I said, "Do I get the trophy too?" And he said, "Well, no." I said, "Freddie's got it. Got to call and get it back." And I went, "Okay."
You're on your own.
So I thought about it for a minute. So I called Dick Cano
Oh,
and asked him
boss
where he
man.
got his trophy.
The boss
Where he
man.
got his trophies made. And he told me. I said, "Okay." So I called the trophy house and told them I was Dick Cano. And I needed a duplicate trophy for the Sunday race. And so they said, "Okay." And I said, "Now ship it to my address." And they said, "Okay." So they did. I got the trophy. Never paid for it. They billed Cano.
That may be the best freaking story we've ever had on
That's a
here.
good one. Hey, Leroy, speaking of the Race of Champions there in College Station, did you ever partake in any of them wet T-shirt contests over by the fountain over there?
And what?
Did you ever partake in any of them wet T-shirt contests over at the hotel?
No, it was at the track.
Was it at the track? I always thought that was done at the
It
hotel.
was in the infield. Yeah, it was in the infield.
What at the infield? What?
The wet T-shirt contest that they would have out there.
Oh,
Remember?
yeah.
They'd have a band and,
Oh, yeah.
and all that shit out there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I do too.
If you name a driver, I had about 3 wins in a row.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Wasn't that a good time? I mean, you remember that stuff? I always thought, thinking back about it, I mean, I was a little kid, and my dad and uncle, we'd go up there, and they would like go park me right in front of the stage, and I'm like, what is this? And I figured it out eventually. But it was like you guys were going to race on Sunday, and I would see all the race drivers out there at that big ass party, with the music playing and the ladies there getting their whatever's all covered in cold water. Man, that was that was a good time out there. Fireball out there. I mean, that's another one. You remember Fireball was so damn hot out there, winning all those races.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's the one you were talking about right there.
Yeah, Jimmy Finger.
Yeah, Jimmy.
He, I remember the night that him and Jake Moss got in a fight there at that Max Place racetrack in Austin, and Jimmy stuck his finger in Jake's face and was shaking it, and Jake just reached out and grabbed his finger and broke it. And he didn't take and shake his finger at nobody else for a long time.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. But seriously, Farmer, talk about the Race of Champions. I mean, because I always thought it was cool with you guys that you would take the short track late model and then the super stocks and then the TIDA and all them got to run the sedans and all that. But you guys, I mean, your cars were not built to run that damn track. I mean, the speeds out there. I remember guys, we'd walk up and they had everything taped. I mean, everything, the hood, the windshield, everything was taped down just to try to get around that track. Because hell, you guys in the late models were probably faster than when the Cup guys showed up because you were unrestricted. I mean, you guys were.
Right.
Was that even safe back then?
Greg Davis was always fast at Texas.
Yeah.
No, I don't think for the one. I don't know if he did or not. He might have later after I quit, but
yeah.
Freddie was, I guess, most winners. He won 2 or 3 of them. And I won 1. And what was the boy's name that outrun Robert McCall that year?
That was John Newland. Yeah, in that Coors Light car.
Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of fell into that one.
Yeah, but Robbie showed up with a car with half a roof on it, the windshield cut down, flat side on it and all that. And I looked at that and that'll work. And I got the air chiseled out with the work on mine. got the windshield on too, got the top half and 2 and slid over so it just overlapped each other. And with the top ribbon and all that stuff down and put a flat side on it. Bob McCall cost me a lot of money that day.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, that was a hell of a race. That was a hell of a race that day between those two.
Yeah. It's fun to watch something like that, People they go to car races to watch the wrecks,
That's right.
They don't appreciate the good car racing,
Yeah. That's for sure. Yep.
So
I didn't like the wrecks because usually I was in them,
What's that?
I didn't like the wrecks.
Yeah, that's
I didn't like the wrecks because usually I was in them.
I like the good. Yeah. That was me too. When I was racing, people would say, "Hey, you had a great wreck." I'm like, "Well, you come fix it."
Yeah, really.
Yeah. No doubt.
So, Leroy,
it's been
what was your relationship like with Neil Upchurch? I know that you might have had your differences running in the pro sedans and even maybe some Race of Champions rules, but what was your relationship like with Neil Upchurch?
I don't know. I got along with Neil, I didn't like him sometimes, but I got along with him. And, but he didn't like me for some reason. I guess I was always pushing his button, but he might have liked me. I don't know, but it was not we wouldn't go out to dinner together. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think that's kind of the consensus with Neil, and I think part of that is, I mean, and again, I think actually we talked about Freddie. We had Neil on here, and I think then we lost him, so I think we've got some really good stuff there with him as well. But I think the thing with Neil, Leroy, was he was one that had to draw the fine line between being a good friend and then being the promoter, and I think he did a really good job of that to where it was like he was rock solid on the rules, but he always paid you. And, he charged entry fees and all that. And I think he was a little ahead of his time with the stuff that he did back then.
What Neil Upchurch did for stock car racing in Texas should never be matched.
Yep.
He did a great job.
Yep.
I've always said that, they're a little ridiculous on some things, but
Yep.
it all worked out in the end, And I like the way he said that, he started at, the late model group.
Yeah, TIDA, late models.
TIDA.
Yeah.
And I always thought, well, Neil, you don't have the story quite right there because he didn't start it, I did.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Steve Eastie went down and visited with Bob Harmon and Snowball, and I found out that Bob wanted to go national. He wanted to go all pro Central, and all pro West.
Mm.
And so I told him I had a group of guys that would run a couple of races I promoted, and they did real well. And said I'd like to do the all pro Central. And so I got it. That's what we called it. Got all the decals made. We went racing, and weather took me out. My God Almighty! Everywhere I went, it rained. After all the advertisement and all the, paying out, that you take nothing in. We went to Altus, Oklahoma, and it got so cold it snowed 13 miles from the racetrack.
Damn.
And but it was sun was shining there, so how you call a race with the sun shining, And so
yeah,
it got so cold that we invited everybody in the stands to come up in the press box, a big old press box, so they get it out of cold.
Yeah.
And that JD won that race. And, what was that? 1,200. I don't know what I paid to win, but it was a bunch.
Yeah.
And I know I had the money, but that's all I had.
Yeah.
So everybody took checks,
Yeah.
And I told them that check ain't worth the paper it's written on. They said, well, you can make it good.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yeah.
So then we went to Corpus, and I made a wagon load of money.
Nice.
Filled the place up, but when the guys come to the pay window, they all had two checks. The one they got coming and the one I gave them.
Yeah.
So by the time we paid off everything, we had $300 left, and I told them, let's go home.
Yeah.
And I quit.
Yeah.
And that's when Neil took over.
So you were actually the one that, so I didn't know that. And I think that I know it all. I had no idea that you were actually the one that, I knew you had dabbled around in some of the promoting bullshit and all that, but you were actually the one with that thought. I absolutely did not know that.
Yeah. I think Mary Ann came to my meeting. I had a meeting in San Antonio, and the guy's name in Corpus, what's his name? He had all that going on. Anyway.
Where's that in
promoter in
Corpus?
Corpus. I had Austin, San Antonio, had everybody represented to make one common set of rules.
Oh, wow.
For the late model. I didn't care about the others, but for the late model.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked it out and had a pretty good set of rules. And agreed that we wouldn't walk on one another. If you run on Saturday night, we won't run on Saturday night. On Friday night, we won't run at your place on Friday night. I worked out the schedule, and our first race is going to be in San Antonio. And I borrowed a car from Don Griswold. And he had Neil was running the show, but he was doing such a crappy job of it. He had, it's horrible the way things were happening. So I parked the car and just told him I'll do this, And I just did it myself. And got it straightened out, whether it was right or wrong. I got it the way I wanted it, And we had I think John Foster won that race.
I'll be damned.
Or Dickie Anderson.
From Florida?
But anyway.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, they Neil got all hot and bothered about it. And I paid him all his money that I owed him. He wanted $1,000 for his promotion. I said, okay, so I paid him. And about 3 weeks later, I get a letter and a bill from Neil Upchurch for 28 cents. What's this for? There's a stamp that I didn't pay for.
Are you shitting me?
No. And so there's things like that just irritated the shit out of me.
I don't blame you. Yeah. Wow.
But a lot of people, didn't like Neil, but Neil was fair. I've got to say that. He made you respect him,
Well, yeah.
You didn't have to like him, but you had to respect him,
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, they caught me at Texas World Speedway. We qualified, and I qualified fast. I was the fastest one. And I was going to sit on the pole. Well, I pulled in there to play, and I helped John Kelly. He's dead now. Anyway, he was running the scales for Neil.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there in the car, and he said, go on. I said, what did it weigh? He said, just go on. I said, I ain't going to do it. Just tell me what it weighed. Because I thought you could top off after fuel. DJ, my crew chief,
right.
He took off to the pits to get my gas can, and he came back and he ready to put gas in. He said, "No, you can't do that." I said, "Well, you can't do that." And so Neil come up, excuse me,
No, you're good.
come over there and said, "What are you doing?" I said, and in the meantime, John Kelly's group had walked up behind the scales, and they're looking at them. And they see that I'm light,
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to put fuel in it." He said, "No, you're not." And I said, "You said top off at time trial." And he said, "Wait a minute." So he gets his tape recorder out. He plays it back to me. And he says, "No top off at the time trial." So I was worried about carburetor jets at the time. I wasn't worried about that. And
Yeah,
sure
right.
enough, that's what he said.
Holy shit.
So instead of first, I started last. So
Wow.
But, he always had backup for what he was doing. So he
Absolutely.
must have been right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Damn.
But then he took over the late models and did a great job with them.
Sure he did. Yeah.
I think that Romco was the best thing ever happened to him. But
Yeah.
he just Mullins run out of money or what.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Times got pretty skimpy there for a while, but now he's rolling in the chips again,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
But now the way things have cycled through,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all come back to the same thing.
Yeah, and that's the big part of this, Leroy. I mean, it always comes. There's politics. I mean, there's back and forth, and I mean, there's always backstories. I mean, I thank you. I'm learning stuff tonight I had no idea about. But so I do want to ask you. I mean, of the competitors that you've raced with, I mean, because there have been so many, and like I talk about, you talk about Freddie, when Freddie would show up, and it was, I know when we would show up on Friday night and Freddie was there, we did have that thought, that it was a race for second, but at the same time, I mean, like yourself and Rapper and Slick, and I mean, we can just go down the list, and Fireball and Schwabi and Waldo, I mean, all the guys. Your fiercest competitors. I mean, who were the guys when you look back at it? I mean, who were the guys that man, you knew that you were going to have a great race with?
Slick was about the best.
Slick, yep.
Slick going, that damn old red 24 car, it was him and Rick, but Rick was either on or he was off.
Right.
Slick was always right in the middle, and Leroy Brooks wasn't bad, but it was usually I had more fun racing with Slick than anybody,
Yeah.
I outrun him one night in San Antonio when they protested my motor, and they said I protested the cubic inch. Alan Yates, and so I said, "Well, okay." Johnny Doyle was running the racetrack then.
Johnny Doyle, the drag racing guy.
He said, tear the motor down. They want to measure the bore and stroke. I said, "Okay." So they had to have a representative from another car, from that car, the protesting car, to come check it.
Nice.
I said, "Okay." So they sent Leroy Brooks over there. And Brooks was standing there, and we're drinking a beer, and I said, I took the head off. DJ just took the fender cover, covered the head up, and walked off with it. He said, "No, I'm going to leave you that head." And he said, "No." DJ told him, "You protested bore and stroke, not the head."
Oh,
and,
nice.
Okay. So, anyway, it was an old Lozano motor that we got from Buddy Yannis.
Lozano Brothers and Buddy Yannis. I'll be damned.
They blew a head gasket in Washington, the last race of the season, and they parked the car. Didn't do nothing. And the water set on top of the piston and motor, screwed into the block, and it was a big ridge right there, where you sit there and ate it out. And so we honed it, but it still was there. And it was the number one cylinder.
I'll be damned.
When the race was over, when the protest was over, Brooks reached in there and felt of it. He said, "Damn." He went and told Slick and Alan, he said, "You didn't get outrun by 355. You got outrun by a wore-out 355.
Oh, man.
That old motor was fly. That was my first experience with Lozano motors.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That's a good bunch right there. I know with us, being friends with Jim, I know JP had a lot of years there with Lozano and you as well, with all of that. But Leroy, I want to ask you because I know that you're not in Austin now, but I talk to so many people in Austin just with business stuff that I do, and we talk about old school Austin. Any recollections for you with Speedorama and the Aquafest races that that you guys would run out there? And then hell, I think you guys even did like some downtown racing back in those days.
I won one of those things.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah. It was a Camaro that was beautiful. It was a solid white card. It didn't have a mark on it. And we raced in Austin on Friday night.
Yeah.
We practiced road racing Saturday.
That's right.
And we loaded up, took off to San Antonio on Saturday night. And I crashed.
Oh,
So I didn't pull off that car. And I went back to my shop, and I'm having a Camaro in the shop being repaired. All new sheet metal stacked up there.
Man.
So we took the fenders and the hood, the rubber cover, and pieced it on there, and we let beat out the doors and showed what that thing was all. It looked like, been in a fight. And it was rough, but it went fast.
Yeah.
So what happened to this car? Well, we had a little wreck last night.
Yeah, that's
we raced
right.
last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't even set.
Yeah, they can't believe it.
So we took off and won the thing.
Yeah.
That was a fun race.
Yeah, I bet it was. I bet it was. I bet it was.
You remember where the old Dish Rock Field was at?
Yeah.
The old Ball Diamond?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we went around, down Riverside Drive, and you turned left and went behind it, turned left again behind the dome.
All the way over there?
Huh?
All the way over there. Man, that's a long, that's a good, that's up Red River, and then, that's a long ways out.
Well, we went all the way down to the railroad tracks before Lamar.
Damn.
And then turn and come back across, and you come across it. It was a double lane road. Went between the new auditorium and the old one.
Wow.
Cut through. Yeah. And they'd taken some asphalt and put up against that curb. Right? And so, we hit it, we tear up the car. Well,
yeah.
In qualifying, I figured out I don't need to turn there. I can go straight. And, so instead of making an S, because you just went in it made a chicane. You go in and turn, and turn hard back left, and around the new auditorium you went. And shoot, what's this? And I hit the skirt, went flying over, and it landed on all four wheels. And I said, well, that's all right. And sure enough, it worked. So I did it for 20 laps, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the prizes didn't tear up the car, but we won the thing.
Man, that's awesome. Good old River City road races, I think is what they used to call that thing. After
I used to say I won on every pavement track. And so I'm always won on every pavement track in Texas.
That's right. That
was downtown Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of them, but one on both of them in what was it? Midland, Odessa.
Yeah.
John Foster's track.
Twin Cities.
Track,
Twin Cities.
Built a new one.
Yeah. That's right. So Leroy, last question, and then we'll let you go. I'm sorry, this went longer, but you just keep bringing up so many good things. I want to talk about Highway 16, San Antonio. In the mid '80s, up towards the end when you guys were out there. I mean, yourself, John Kelly. Hubert Bean. Just all those guys. It had changed a little bit at that point, with the late models before TIDA. Talk about those days. I mean, even Waldo was buying cars from Rusty Wallace and all this stuff. And like you talked about with Jim and Slick and all these guys, it very competitive in the mid 80s in San Antonio. That was a very good time out there.
Yeah. Waldo bought that car from Rusty Wallace.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And Tommy Davis had wrecked his car. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's another story. Waldo had the car but didn't have a motor. So he didn't have a motor in it. So he called Dick Sweat out of Florida, a old Ron Neal builder, and Schmidt had building motors, so he traded some stuff for a motor.
Yeah.
And so Dick showed up with the motor. We all come over to my shop. We put it in over there, and so Swabby was going to drive it in San Antonio.
Yeah.
So we went over there, and Swabby made 4 or 5 laps, and Dick was sitting there and just shaking his head, And so Swabby come in and said, "You need to change the jets in the carburetor. It didn't have power off the corner." And Spett told him, "Pal, you're on the wrong racetrack." And he pointed over to drag strip.
That's right.
He said, "You need to go over
That's
there."
right. Go to Alamo Dragway.
Yeah. Because he would park it going in the corner, instead of going over in the corner. And that's one of the reasons when I bought my first Lozano motor complete,
Mm-hmm.
That thing would fly.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, "I need more horsepower." He said, "You see that red light over over turn 3?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Where do you let it off?" I said, "Right about there." He said, "Where do you get back in it?" I said, "Right about there. It's the next red light coming out of 4.
Right.
And I did them before, I said, he said, "Well, when you stand it all the way around, I'll turn the horsepower up." So
yeah. I know. I know. One of the first times I raced at San Antonio, my dad was like, "You run to the end of to the light." I'm like, "All the way down there? Are you kidding me? I'm used to Austin. I mean, I got to hit the brake. I can't do that." But yeah, scary ass track indeed. But just good stuff. Leroy, man, I'm so impressed that you're still rattling this stuff off. When I saw you posting about, I want to tell some stories. That's why I reached out and I said, "I've got the place for you. Please jump on with us." And our people, our people love hearing.
I've told all the
stuff.
good ones.
That's right. That's right. Well, we'll have to do another one when we can tell the bad ones. and I'm sure there's plenty of those too. So good stuff. Great stuff. Good stuff.
I'll get one more in here. Somebody asked me one time at San Antonio, said, "How far you drive that thing in?" I said, "I drive it till my foot flies up and my mouth flies open." and turn.
Yeah, that was a totally different animal over there. But man, you guys, Bobby and I always talk about when we get to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for shaping us. We love talking racing, and it's guys like you that make this show possible, because we like to talk about racing that's happening now, but it's because of guys like you that made the stuff so real, and just you've blazed the trail. That it's an honor to talk to you tonight and get to hear all these great stories.
Well, thank you, sir.
And
I enjoyed it.
And I'm still pissed off at you for passing me 24 times in that damn enduro.
Well, we'll have to run another, and I'll back up the first 24.
Yeah, that's right. I guarantee you'd still kick my ass, but that's okay. I'll take it. I was honored that day. Leroy, thank you, sir. I look forward to talking to you more in the future. And thanks for taking the time.
You bet. Have a good night.
You bet. Take care.
Yeah.
You bet. Leroy Farmer. Dude, I had no idea of this
late model thing. Yeah,
TIDA thing.
Nobody's ever mentioned that to us before.
No, I had heard some rumblings at some point about something like that. I'd heard another story I wasn't going to ask him about, but man, that's crazy shit.
Interesting.
I'm always so impressed with these guys where they're sharp. They're sharp, dude. I can't remember last week.
Yeah, but you remembered races from back in the early 80s pretty quick just then.
Well, yeah, but the whole thing is, these guys are so good. And, and that's where we go back to, Bobby, when we sit there and he's talking about Austin and Corpus and Altus and Twin Cities and all these races. And he was talking about people that had racetracks that I had no idea that they had racetracks. But that's even more depressing to me as an asphalt racing fan.
Yeah, to know that we had that many to the nothing we have now. So.
Yeah, nothing at all. But anyway, good stuff there. That is Mr. Leroy Farmer that we got to talk to right there. Always so good. Did you see, and we'll be done here pretty quick, Jeremy Mayfield is racing again.
Yeah.
Won two of them.
Some kind of pro stock or something.
Yeah, it was Grand National Super Series or something like that. And he won two of them this weekend.
Yeah, some kind of pro late model deal he was running.
Yeah. So a good thing there for him. But
apparently the Dell Jr. download's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't gotten I'm going to be in the air on Saturday. I think I'm going to download that thing and check that out. We do need to give a shout out. Did you see the finish of William Sawalik, who was on this show last week, I think it was, after his big win there at Pensacola? He ran a race against I forget where it was. I have it written down here somewhere, but I can't see. He had every opportunity to wreck Casey Johnson, but did not do it.
Oh, it's a Milwaukee Mile.
Milwaukee Mile. That's right. He didn't do it. Youngsters.
And Casey Johnson was on the record on Racing America saying he could have wrecked me, and he didn't.
He said that's a good young talent right there. He didn't use up his stuff. And I can guarantee you one thing, because I saw it on Facebook, that one of the first people that were applauding him after Casey Johnson was his car owner, Donnie Wilson. Thank you for not tearing my stuff up.
Yeah, that's why Donnie keeps him in the car.
That's right. That is exactly right. So, Bobby, your weekend plans. What's going on for you this weekend, my friend? Or the rest of the week. It's Monday, so we're moving.
Rest of the week is a little wide open. The weekend will be very interesting because I'll be going to the 25th high school reunion in New Braunfels there on Saturday night. So that'll be fun, kind of reminiscing old stories and stuff like that. So that will be fun. If it's anything like the 20th anniversary, that was I remember about 3/4 of the 20th anniversary.
Oh yeah,
I remember about 3/4 of the 20th anniversary. So I'm hoping that I won't be as. The goal is to have a good time, but not to get as inebriated as I was last time.
You don't want to be as sleepy as you were that day.
I don't want to be as hungover as I was the next day.
Oh my goodness, look out! Yeah, I enjoyed my 30th. I did my 30th a couple of years ago, and I enjoyed that one because all the girls that I would never go out with me, I was, in a better spot.
It was your humor.
That's right.
Your sense of humor.
If you missed that on Saturday, I was talking about that to where my wife loves me because I'm a funny guy. And I appreciate that, but apparently that's all I have going for me. I played the thing for her, and she's like, no. I'm like, just telling you what you've told me before. But anyway, so what's on the calendar? You got Heart of Texas Speedway this week on Friday. You got all the regular stuff. I think 105 is off. I know they were off this week. They had a big race planned. They were off because of they had some stuff to deal with. But I
think 105 is racing this weekend because they were trying to get some of the Texana cars to go from Texana to 105.
That's right, because Texana is off for a wedding. I love that. It's like that tells
small
you
town racetrack.
That's right. That tells you about your racing community when you have to cancel or postpone because you've got a wedding going on, and then that's okay. I mean, that's a good thing. Is 37? I think 37 maybe this week.
I think so.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
By the time I dig in and find out, the show will be over.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll figure that out. We'll post all that stuff later on. But what a great show right there as we had a great conversation with our man, Leroy Farmer. We'll podcast that. It'll be at revvedupsportshow.com. Great conversation. Sharp as a tack. You know what I love the best about when we talk to those guys? It's like when you say Texas World Speedway and they're like,
all of them, every one of them.
Yeah, or you mention some semblance of whatever, and they're like,
and they all react the same way because they all remember it differently, but they all remember it the same.
That's right. Good stuff. Great show. Thank you all for checking in. Like I said, we'll podcast this thing up. Got to post that one more time. Look at those race cars. Hot damn, those are good looking race cars. You guys have a great week. We will do this again next Monday right here. It is hashtag Real Race Talk from Texas. Showtime, Bobby Chaffee. Rodney Rodriguez. We will see you guys next time right here on the Revved Up Sports Show.